For the last 3 years, I have loved building logistic floors throughout my Satisfactory playthroughs, and as we'll discuss, they're absolutely amazing. However, recently I decided to quit using logistic floors for my new 1.0 series, and the results were interesting. In today's video, I'll be talking about why I didn't use a logistic floor, and then I'll be giving reasons as to why they're fantastic and could potentially be perfect for you. First, what even is a logistics floor? Well, here is a quick example. This is a regular factory setup. We've got 3 smelters going into 3 constructors. And as you can see, we have got these power poles here which are rather exposed. Simply put, the conveyor belt goes straight from the smelter into the constructor, then straight back out again. And this is all built on one singular floor. This is a regular factory, and this is a logistics floor factory. As you can see, it looks far neater, and that's purely because of the way that I've presented this. If we were to look underneath here, we can see this is where all of our logistics actually are, hence why it's called a logistics floor. What I also managed to do in here is put all of our power down here as well, so when you go back up top, it looks a lot neater since there is no power poles anywhere to be seen. Both of these layouts work completely fine. So here we are at our starter factory, and as you can see, we haven't used any logistics floors, but what I have done instead is added a bunch of elevated conveyor belts that go all across our world. This was the very first thing I built, which makes reinforced iron plates, and it's extremely simple. We then moved on to rotors, and then things started to get a little bit messy. Luckily though, we still have paths all across this factory, but there is absolutely nothing underneath this, for example. Like, nothing at all. It's just a bunch of very weird foundations placed in certain spots which maybe shouldn't even be there. I have recently shown off this build in a recent video, so I won't spend too long talking about it. I think we should though talk about the reasons as to why I didn't do a logistics floor in this playthrough. And that's mostly because I've been doing it for years, like I've previously mentioned, so I fancied a bit of a break and a bit of a challenge. I have never built anything like this before, so I thought, why not try now? This has led to some absolutely incredible and also kind of crazy projects. Not to mention it was a slight logistical nightmare, but I always love a good challenge. So that's the main reason as to why I quit using logistics floors in my factory. But there's a couple more reasons as well. Second reason being the scale. Originally, this was just supposed to be a starter factory, producing things like iron plates, iron rods, wire, and things that you often have towards the very beginning of the game. Then things started to get a bit crazy. We then started to make power here, we placed down a bunch of refineries, and before you know it, we're already on phase 4 of the hub. We're not just producing computers here, but also modular engines, and even adaptive control units. Because of the fact that we've built in the desert, there is so much open flat land here that we can continue this for still quite a long way, but I'm not really planning on doing that. In fact, all of this is soon going to be not necessarily removed because I really like what we built here, but instead it's going to be buried underneath one of my next mega projects that I'm going to be building right on top of this thing. So our 2 main points so far is 1, the fact that I've been building with logistics floors for years and I fancied a bit of a break, and the second reason is I'm too far gone into this one build now that adding a logistics floor at this stage just wouldn't really be worth it. Just a reminder, this is the very first thing that I built. I was never expecting it to actually expand to be this sort of scale. Third reason as to why I didn't want to build a logistics floor is purely because of this atmosphere. When I'm walking around parts of my factory like this, just seeing all the conveyor belts and everything moving, it's such an incredible feeling, and to be quite honest, I absolutely love it. It makes the factory just feel so alive, and it's a feeling I haven't really witnessed in quite a long time of playing this game, and it's one of the main reasons as to why I'm absolutely loving doing this new style of factory or logistics floor being elevated above from everything else. Even these conveyor belt highways cutting straight through the build, it's so different to what I would ever build before, but I'm really enjoying it. Ooh, modular frames. I wouldn't say this project's perfect, but the atmosphere is something I absolutely love. Especially when you see items being produced, it's such an awesome feeling. Not to mention seeing all the colours just flowing beautifully with each other. The pinks there from the raw quartz, the bronze there from the copper, and the little bit of black from the steel beams and steel pipes, all mixed together with the white there from the awesome sink. And the yellow, the gold, everything, the colors look beautiful. Whereas if all of this was hidden underneath the factory itself, all you'd really see is just the black or the, whatever it's called, chrome from the actual factory itself, mixed in with the white of the concrete and the grey of the walls. It would look very modern and, well, nice, some may say, but it wouldn't look as colourful. So I do quite like the fact that we did manage to do this. Very quickly, I've got an entire playlist dedicated to the best recipes in Satisfactory 1.0. My target is to get through all the recipes in the game. Subscribing is the best way to support my work. I have a lot more videos coming out soon. Thank you. And without further ado, let's get straight back into the video. Next up, we have Experimentation. Of course, this is my very first series I've done since the implementation of 1.0, meaning I can produce things like reanimated Sam, like what you see right now, which eventually can produce this thing, which is fluctuated Sam? I think I'm currently thinking I have literally zero use for this thing as of right now. But yeah, just the new items, of course, are pretty awesome. But like I was mentioning, it's also a bit to do with experimentation as well. Because I'm using such a new, well, I say new, it's new for me personally, unique playstyle, it's given me a good chance to actually experiment with some things. And of course, using some new conveyor belts as well, the Mark 6s that I cannot wait to use. It's really good fun, and it definitely gets my brain ticking a little bit, thinking about, can I add this there, or I might try and switch this up with that, and it's really good fun. It's also rather chaotic as well, which I love. And that's definitely something that the logistics floor helps with. It doesn't make things look too chaotic, so if you want to be looking at your iron ingots and thinking, oh, they look quite nice, then you might want to go with this style. But if you don't want to see your iron ingots, and if you don't want all these conveyor belt highways going across your factory, then you might want to use logistics floors. Logistic floors are also fantastic to do with other things as well. Let's talk a bit more about that. For this example, I'm going to be showing you two factories. The first one being our... I'm going out of bounds. Oh no. Oh no. Oh no. Go back in. Go back in. We're fine. There we go. That wasn't a problem. First build I want to try and show you is our unpackaging site for our crude oil and our compact coal, coming in from that train station to the left, which is part of our turbo fuel factory, which I'm currently trying to build, and I've spent the last 3 weeks trying to build around this area. The second factory will be my last season's playthrough, where I show you a bit more about logistics floors. Let's start with our unpackaging area. When you enter this build, it looks relatively simple. There is absolutely nothing complex about this. You've got your industrial sized fluid buffers over there, and of course you've got our packages, which are actually unpackaging everything as of right now, in this area over here. We've got the solids going in, with the liquids coming out. Extremely simple, except all of this took me about 4 days to do. But you wouldn't actually notice that just from looking at this build because of how simple it is. The main reason for that is because of this, the logistics floor. All of our crude oil and compact coal comes in from this train station like I previously talked about. It then travels underneath this thing, which is a slightly long conveyor belt, until it gets to here. And you might be looking at this thinking, what the absolute hell have I created? I thought the exact same thing, but essentially, it's a 3 conveyor belt going into 4 conveyor belt system. I believe it's called some sort of like a manifold splitter. I don't know what it's called in Satisfactory terms, but it's absolute spaghetti, and I kind of love it. And that's the thing with logistics floors, it doesn't have to be extremely neat. It can be a bit messy, it can be a bit fun, and no one's ever really going to know, because again, remember when we were just up here, just a moment ago? Everything looks so neat, organized, and tidy. And again, you come down here, and it's like, oh dear, what have I just stepped into? The most important thing about a logistics floor is if it runs fully efficiently. It might be a bit messy, it might not look fantastic, and you might have a few things clipping in through the floor, because if it was to clip any other way, it would then be an absolute pain in the rear. But as long as it functions properly, then your logistics floor technically serves its purpose. Eventually, our empty canisters and compact coal, and as well as obviously our crude oil, leaves from this side here as well. But that is our logistics floor. Everything's hidden, everything's relatively neat, and from above, it looks really simple. And of course, all of our power is hidden underneath here as well. I'm very happy with the way this thing looks, but there's one thing it lacks compared to our starter factory. And that is chaos. That is life. That's movement. Yes, of course you do see the crude oil moving here when this thing's actually turned on, but that's it. There's no conveyor belts going above you, or, well, of course they are below you, and the only sense of movement you can actually get is because I added in this glass floor, which, to be fair, does actually look quite nice when everything is moving. But except for that, it doesn't really feel like a factory. Unlike, again, our starter factory, which is completely different. Oh, lag. So if you do want everything to look nice and neat, you might enjoy a logistics floor. Here's another very quick example. This basic factory right here only really has one goal, and that's to turn all of our polymer resin that we're getting as a byproduct from our heavy oil residue, and turns it into plastic. Now this factory looks nice and neat, in my opinion at least, but it also shows you a good amount of the conveyor belts as well. So it's not completely dead, but you also don't feel like it's a complete mess either. You have got conveyor belts like this, which I actually do kind of like. I like to see a bit of that conveyor belt movement above us. And of course, we also have a ton of conveyor belts right below us, which you can see right about here. And hopefully if I can try and squeeze into this thing, oh dear. You can see that we have actually got quite a lot of pipes and conveyor belts down here. And this sort of pattern is repeated 14 times throughout this area here, which is quite a lot. Not to mention, we also have another logistics floor. That is right, a logistics floor underneath a logistics floor. Yep, that sums up my project in a nutshell. Which also deals with a bunch of our polymer resin and plastic there as well. If it wasn't for these logistic floors, this place would look like an absolute mess. So I suppose in that regard, it's actually fantastic that we have got them. And it makes this area look sort of industrial, but at the same time, not too messy. Now let's move on to our final example of what a starter factory can look like with logistic floors. Oh, and I've just realized it's been deleted. The last time this was opened was back in 2023. So, what, my file was just gone then? Okay, sick. What even is this one? I have literally no idea what I'm even loading into now. Epic video as always. Subscribe for more, everybody. Just kidding, you don't have to. I won't get offended. I promise. What the hell is this? I have absolutely no idea what I've just loaded into. Where even am I? On the map? Oh, I'm actually down here again? What are the odds? This is exactly where I was for the last example that I was just giving. Okay, you know what? This could actually be quite a fun video. Would you guys like to see me tour this world that I've built? I have got absolutely no idea what I've actually done in this save. All that I know is I've got about 400 hours in it. And... oh, I just... quartz? Why have I got quartz here? So I'm obviously doing something with bauxite. Oh, look at the... oh, this looks dread. Okay, you know what? If you would like to see me tour this world, let me know in the comments down below. This could be the worst video I've ever produced on the channel. But, so, as an overall video recap, I absolutely love logistics floors. And honestly, I actually recommend you use them. But it all depends on what style you're trying to go for. If you're going for a nice, neat style that hasn't really got much exposed conveyor belts, and you might like to do something like this, or you might want to add a logistics floor. And just to be clear, a logistics floor doesn't actually mean that you have to instantly add these conveyor lifts everywhere. You can, of course, drag back your conveyors a little bit, and then have some more conveyor belts underneath the floor, underneath this level here. That's completely fine. But logistics floors do help keep everything nice and neat. The reason as to why I quit using logistics floors in my new 1.0 save, for my starter factory at least, is again because of, first of all, I used it way too many times. Second of all, I wanted to try and do something a bit new. Third of all, I wanted to experiment. And lastly, why the hell not? I always loved changing up my playstyles, so it was a good experiment to do something that I've never really done before. And again, if you want to do that, then feel free. There are many different playstyles in Satisfactory, so don't listen to what someone tells you to do. Do whatever the hell you want to do. If it doesn't work out, that's fine. Just tear it up, start again. If it does work out, fantastic. Be the boss of your own creativity. Regardless, thank you very much for watching. But before we go, a massive thank you to our members, Mau Mau, Skull and Hattie, Lo, Nitormal, Chaos Rising, Cutthroat Zoo, Yamikel, and Tio Rico.